What are we talking about? Time blocking. Let's see, I'm just trying to think of opening line. Dan here. I am back in Prague after spending the last 2 weeks in Paris, and tomorrow I am going back to Paris. And in this video, I'm gonna tell you why. Now, if you happen to be an ENFP or INFP, similar to myself, then you probably have struggled at times getting things done, like big projects. Maybe there's a book you wanna write, a YouTube channel you wanna start, a business you wanna start, something that you really need to do and want to do, but you find yourself getting distracted, having trouble actually either starting, staying on track, or finishing the damn project overall. This is something that in the past I was really good at doing, but I found this was becoming harder and harder for me over time. See, when I started writing and wrote my first books, I didn't have a coaching business. Well, I had a coaching business, but I only had a few clients, and it was something where I could really push into a small part of my week. And then my business grew. I had a team. I had multiple people working for me, clients all around the world, programs I was running, and I tried to write a new book again and again, really struggled to actually make it happen, and haven't made it happen up until this point. And so I started thinking back to what actually worked for me in the past. Like, I was so productive. How did I do that? And I realized it really came down to two things. Number one was inspiration, and we'll talk about that probably in another video. And the other is time boxing, is having a dedicated period of time and focus on one thing and one thing only. For us ENFPs, something like time boxing is so important because we have this creative brain, we have our extroverted intuition, and if we have many things on our plate for the day, we're gonna keep bouncing from them. We'll think about this for a little bit, then this for a little bit, then jump back. We'll think about all the possibilities, the problems. It's the end of the day, you look and you're like, I actually only got a few hours work done because I was thinking about all these other things. Where when you just focus on one thing, you can take your extroverted intuition, and instead of using it to evaluate all the different things you're doing, all the things you could be doing, what order you should do them in, you can use all that brain power on just getting that one thing done. And this isn't necessarily just an ENFP thing. I mean, if you read the advice from great authors, they're never talking about, oh, I write 7 books at one time, right? Stephen King talks about this, where he writes 1 book at a time and says you should spend no more than 3 months on a book. And his books are not small. And he's gonna write that book in no more than 3 months, and then it is done and he can move on. Now, if you look up time boxing or time blocking, you'll see it can be about taking a week and breaking that week into periods. Like for 4 hours I write, for 2 hours I coach, for 2 hours I work on my website kind of stuff. And that can be great too, to time box that way on a daily or weekly basis. But what I'm talking about here is extreme time boxing. This is why I spent the last 2 weeks in Paris, and tomorrow, when I'm done filming this wonderful video and a few others for you, I will be flying back to Paris, where I will be spending an undefined amount of time until I have finished my latest book. And so this is my extreme time boxing. I am literally moving myself to Paris. I know it's a tough life having to go to Paris and write a book. It's very difficult. I'm moving myself to Paris until this book is done, because that provides me with the lack of distractions. It provides me with the absolute focus I need. But the thing is, when you do this, you're going to have to sacrifice some other things. I know that when I'm in Paris writing, I will be missing out on some financial opportunities. I may have a few angry emails because I don't respond quickly or at all during this time. One of the things with extreme time boxing is you might say, I'd love to do that, but what about this or this or that? And that's just a decision you have to make, a calculation. When you think about time boxing, yes, you will sacrifice something, but is it worth it for this accomplishment? Because the way I look at it is, if I don't dedicate this time and lose out on some other opportunities, then I know I will not finish this book. And therefore, it's worth it for me. Now, you don't have to follow the same approach where you actually move yourself somewhere. I know not everyone has the lifestyle set up where you can just say, hey, I'm going to Paris to write a book for a month or 2. But you can apply this in smaller ways. So for example, maybe you want to have themes to your week or your month where you say, hey, this month I'm really going to focus on this part of my business, or there's this new project I want to take on, this, what's an example? It could even be something totally different where there's a part of your life, like let's say your romantic life is non-existent and you're like, I really want to improve this part of my life. Take a month and that is your main focus. That is your theme. You're like, I am really going to work on this. You could go to Paris for it, for example. I might not recommend it. I've heard the Parisian women are not the easiest to talk to. Little word on the street there. So you might ask, why Paris? Well, mostly because it's a total cliche and I'm a cliche. As places to go, maybe it's just because it's in my head, but it really does feel like this inspiring city. When I'm there, I feel a different energy, the same way I have in living in places like New York before, or when I'm in Spain, I feel something different as well. For me, the energy, the environment makes a big difference. And of course, being outside of my normal home, which normally I'm living in Prague in the Czech Republic, it allows me to really disconnect from everything, from friends, from habits, from whatever else, and just focus on being in this special writing mode. So that's why I'm doing that. I know not everyone has that luxury, and of course, to do time boxing, you don't have to move somewhere different for that period of time, but that's what makes my approach a little extreme and why it is working for me. I was telling my friend about how I'm doing this in Paris, and he told me about J.K. Rowling. Apparently she took some of her Harry Potter money and rented out an entire hotel where she had no phones, no nothing to write. And she just said, like, there's nothing I can do but write. It's either stare at the wall or write. There's no other distractions. And a lot of the time this sort of stuff is required, especially when it comes to something like writing, which is notoriously difficult to do and easy to procrastinate, but it can happen in many areas of your life. As I said at the beginning of the video, this is the thing that has worked best for me. When I really took time to reflect back on when I've accomplished big creative things, it's when I've done one thing obsessively and stuck to it until it was finished. Make sure you finish it till the end. If you stop sort of the last 5–10%, as an ENFP, it's gonna be very hard to come back a month or two later, especially if it's something like writing a book, because you're gonna be forgetting where you were at, where things are, and you're really gonna dread coming back to it. In the comments below, let me know, what is one thing in your life you've been putting off doing that if you could take on and just dedicate time and actually get it done would make a massive difference in your life? Let me know that in the comments below, and I will see you in the next video soon. Thank you for watching. I am Dan. This is Dreams Around the World. I publish new videos often, helping you become the best version of yourself, all while creating the most awesome life possible for you and those you love. See you in the next one soon.